When I was a little kid, I was in plays. I was an actor when I was little. I started acting when I was like 6. And the first guy that put me in this play was a guy named Scott. He was a director and he's dead now. He had a winter wonderland in the basement of his Long Island house. He was a gay guy. I don't think he ever told, he lived with his dad. His dad was like a real weird guy. I don't think he ever told his dad he was gay, but he did have a winter wonderland in his basement. So that might have given the dad some idea that there was something going on. There was no wife, but there was a winter wonderland. Like, so the guy, and boy, winter wonderland, I mean, the guy would have like all these dolls and all these, like, it was just a big deal thing. And I remember my mom took me and my father there and we like walked downstairs and this guy lived in this house and his father was like a psychopath. His father was like one of these Long Island guys that I think was in a war and just stayed in the war forever and had like combat helmets and guns and knives all over his room. He was just waiting for the next war. And his son was downstairs, with like a winter wonderland fucking display in the basement. It was a very interesting change from the first floor of the house to the basement. Me and my father and my mother we went over to this guy's house. We walked around downstairs into this fucking thing. And my dad was like, what the fuck is this? I mean, it was crazy. It was like the level of detail, how meticulous it was. It was one of the first examples I had of somebody that was so meticulous and detailed about, something. They were just obsessed with it, and nobody would see it unless they knew him. Like, it wasn't in his window or anything. It was the basement of his house. So he'd have to kind of bring people in. And when you walked in, the living room was just like a regular shitty Long Island house, and then you would have to walk downstairs and then you would see this winter wonderland display, and it was wild. I always think about that sometimes. I think about like what that guy was about, like what he was about, living in that house in Long Island, having that dad that probably hated him or maybe liked him. No, didn't like him, but maybe maybe they got along. I don't know. You never know. I don't know. What do I know? Going downstairs every night and just creating this world, this winter wonderland world in the basement of this fucking Long Island house, while your father's upstairs loading his gun and preparing for the next battle. Like what a wild country this is. And that's why the whole thing where everything's political now, how do you politicize that? How do you make that into Republicans and Democrats and big or small government? The truly fascinating shit in this country is just how insane it all is. Just think about people's lives and the proximity, how close they live to each other, and these lives and these crazy things you'll never know about people. You'll just never know what people are into, what their passions are, what excites them, Most people just labor away at things they hate because they have to. It's just shitty, And you'll never know like what that person was in. Like, you'll never know, like, you'd be like, oh, this person loved the clarinet, or this guy likes torture porn, that's his thing, and you'll never know like what different subcultures people really get into. I think about that guy in his basement, just crafting this little world where he could just go down there and be in this winter wonderland where all these dolls had these candles and everything, and he would just go down there and get away from his life and spend time down there while his father was upstairs just choking down Salisbury steak or whatever. The darkness of that moment, the idea of it, to me, when I think about Christmas, I think about things like that, because he loved that winter wonderland. It was like he invented this little, and then he just died. I think he had an aneurysm or something, I forget. He was just he just doesn't exist anymore, that guy. But it's just an interesting thing when you think about this month. It's a dark month. Let it be dark. Don't have to fight that. There's a beauty to that. There's something special and interesting about that. There is a lot of funny shit. There's a lot of funny movies and stuff. Embrace what it really is. You don't have to get hammered. But you can really just settle into what it is, which is the end of the year. It's the end of the cycle. The cold comes and the snow comes and everybody dies, And then January is just death. Important. So I always think about that guy. I remember Scott. He was the director. And not of anything important. He directed plays at the local school. Interesting, man. Interesting stuff. And he had fun. He had a fun life. It wasn't a horrible life. He had friends and freaks that he was, friends with, that they'd go out to diners after shows. And, that was my first glimpse into what people's lives were like when they were outside of the mainstream. Because a lot of these people were, that theater group, they were fucking, what did they do? They were teachers, or some guy was a mailman. Some lady worked at a bank. Like, they had jobs. They weren't making any fucking money. But then they would be in these shows and they would go out, to eat after rehearsal or after the show. And it was like something for them to do. And it took them outside of their lives. And that was the first glimpse I had of that. And I was 6 or 7. I remember internalizing that and being like, it's just fun to go to a diner late at night because that's like the ultimate fuck you to the world. I remember at 7, I was like, oh, no one cares. You go out late at night. You just say, you sit, you say what you want, you laugh. You don't have to go to bed. You don't have to get up for school, even though I did have to get up for school. But I was like, these people can just do what the fuck they want. It was my first. Then when I got older and I understood it, I was like, oh, that was their escape. That wasn't their life. Like, that was their life. That was the part of life they liked or enjoyed. But their life was that bank or that fucking, job at FedEx or whatever. And none of them really thought they were going to make it. There was no idea that they were going to get to the next level, that they were going to support themselves. Many of them were well into middle age. They just enjoyed it. And some of these people were so fucking talented, and I've looked up some of them on YouTube, and they're still fucking talented, and they're still doing shit in Long Island. There's just theater in Long Island. I feel guilty kind of when I YouTube them, when I see what they're doing, because I'm the most famous person in the world now, and I wouldn't, if any of them said hello to me, I would literally spit on them. And then I would have people that I walk around with pull a gun on them. No, I feel guilty because I was able to make money doing something I liked. And that's a tough thing. And not everyone gets to do that. That's kind of a cool thing to do. And December feels like where we all feel like we escape. We put lights on the houses. We all pretend to give a shit about each other. We all, talk to people we haven't seen in forever. We force to social interactions. We go to the holiday parties, we lube it up with booze. It's just fun. Everything's supposed to matter a little bit more and everything like that. But there's an underbelly. There's another side to it that's a bit more serious and darker. And that side you appreciate when you sober up.